Welcome at the Growcast, the podcast of BlueCity and BlueCity Lab, in which we talk with 8 Rotterdam-based pioneering biodesigners, our so-called pioneers, about how a future will look like if we design with nature as our guideline. We started this podcast to celebrate the opening of BlueCity Lab, a biocircular playground for pioneers located in the heart of BlueCity.
We invited 4 frontrunners whose work will make us rethink everything we think we know, and 4 aspiring biodesigners who want to challenge the status quo. My name is Barbara Vos.
And I'm Emma van der Leest. In this podcast, we want to welcome Anna Alessia Viggiano from Italy, a chemist, a biodesigner, and student at the Design Academy Eindhoven. She designed solar cells that use the coloring agent of red cabbage and has joined BlueCity Lab to develop her prototypes. Welcome, Anna.
Hi.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Could you tell us, that this is a question we start with all our guests, how were the last couple of months for you?
Well, actually, for me, the last 2 months were very productive, and I started a new master in Design Academy, and I had the possibility to work on my own project, and it was a really productive moment and a really exciting period of my life, actually, despite all the crises and the global pandemic. But
Okay, wow.
That's good to hear. And was it because you could focus more, or?
yeah, during the proper lockdown, I finally had the possibility to be at home for a lot of time, actually. And I try to use this time in the more productive way. So I start reading and I start writing and I start to defining my future path and decide what to do with my life. And then I decided also to apply to Design Academy. And I had the possibility to prepare everything.
And in which education are you in at the Design Academy?
I'm in a new master, which is called Geodesign.
Okay, nice.
This is the first year for this master, and it's basically related with research and transdisciplinarity.
Wow, sounds really exciting. And can you tell a little bit more about what you do? We already mentioned the red cabbage and the coloring agents. That made us really curious. So please tell us, what are you working on?
Yeah, so I developed that project as a thesis project from my previous bachelor in chemistry. And I started working on that project from a critique, which was related to the way the actual solar cells are produced. So the fact that they contain silicium, which is an element that you can find in nature and has to be extracted from the nature and has to be processed through a series of very economic and also environmental dispendious processes, made me think that it is somehow a green source of energy, but unfortunately not completely, because the disposal of these cells, it's not completely eco-friendly. So I start to think about how to develop a kind of solar cells that can be more friendly for the environment. And so I also thought about the nature and what we have in the nature and what we can use and extract from the nature. And I saw that that some dyes and molecules that are contained in the fruits and vegetables are able to actually transport the photons. And so I decided to extract these dyes from the vegetables and to apply them in the solar cells.
And does it work?
It worked. Yeah, basically the structure of the molecule, it's able to transfer the electrons from the light to an external circuit. So basically they catch the light and they transport this energy through an external circuit. So in a way that they can create a current.
And did you find this out with your thesis when you were? Well, you are a chemist, right?
Yeah. I developed this as a thesis project for my bachelor. Yeah.
And is it still in the lab phase, or are companies really interested in applying this? Because we have solar panels right now, but we know we can also create it with algae, with beetroot. You know, there are many more opportunities that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's still on the research phase because it worked, but the efficiency, it's not comparable to the actual solar cells. No. So it's
but it
still...
took the actual solar cells 40 years to get to this.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe in the future it could be that. I mean, it can open possibilities, but it's still on the research phase. And now other laboratories and also the laboratory in which I led my research, it's still working on this topic. So
was that also your motivation to see how like for the energy transition, it shouldn't be about one topic, but you want to also close the loop in that line of field as well?
Yeah, for me, it's basically like to find gaps within the research and within the actual, let's say, structure of the society, and to try to fill them somehow. And also for my thesis project, it was the same. I started from an idea that was how to fill this gap, how to produce a more green source of energy. And starting from this idea, I started to investigate and to research, also using other people's work, because it's also about sharing knowledge and like finding new solutions starting from other people's research. Yeah. And basically for me was finding a way for filling a gap.
And that makes you an ideal contestant for the Circular Challenge, because we know you through the Circular Challenge, right?
Yeah, I also participated in the Circular Challenge.
Yeah, and I will just explain for people who don't know it. So it's a BlueCity Circular Challenge. It's a 6-week track we organize for students, young professionals, or people that currently are switching careers here at BlueCity. And we challenge different teams to transform a waste stream into a circular product within 6 weeks for one of our participating companies. So that differs every time. But you can think of organizations or municipalities like the Municipality of Rotterdam or building company BAM. And the most promising teams are guided towards setting up a real startup. And that resulted actually in some high potential circular concepts, products and services like Waterweg, which is a water permeable. Wow. Emma, how do you pronounce this?
Water permeable tile?
Yes, well, the thing is, what makes it so special is that it's made from waste stream of dredge. And so it's like this climate adaptive tile. So the water can trickle through it instead of it lies on top of it. So that's, I think, one of the, it's a beautiful project. And you were the winner of the last Circular Challenge, right? With a team.
Yeah. We won the last Circular Challenge, and we were working together with the Waterbird and the sewage company. And in this case, what we tried to do was to create value from a waste product. And basically, I was so fascinated by the idea of creating this value from something that it's not valuable, and it doesn't represent a resource, and it's even harmful for the environment. It also represents an economic cost. And so I started to think how to transform this waste product in something that can actually have a value. And it turns out that we worked on a solution that has, hypothetically, and I hope in the future, an economic value and also aesthetic value, because we decided to create a green wall by using them as a way to filter the wastewater from the high-rise building, which turns out it represents a problem.
Yeah, because the main focus was, okay, how can we work with waste streams in high-rise buildings, right?
Exactly.
That was the challenge, and
This
every
was the challenge.
team had a different challenge.
Yeah, we worked on 5 different waste streams from the high-rise building, and our challenge was about wastewater.
Okay.
So is that water from the toilets?
Yeah, exactly. From the toilets
right.
and from the sinks, shower, dishwasher, etc. So we decided to filter this water by using the ability of some kind of plants, basically the halophytes, to filter the water and to in a way that it's not harmful for the plants themselves.
Because I've got a question, because you work with wastewater, so it's sewage, so that's actually people's urine and poo that comes down, right? Okay, shampoo as well, but still, it's like, okay, so it's really noble to make waste streams in a new resource, but wow, this is next level shit, actually. What was the first thing you thought when you got this particular challenge?
Well, at the beginning, I was a little bit, I was terrified from it, actually. Because it's not easy to work with these kind of streams, and it's not easy to think about finding a way to make it acceptable to the people.
Exactly, but there's so much potential in it, right?
And especially all the smelly materials, because I remember from the previous years we had the teams working in the lab towards their first prototype, and also the dredge, but also other things from the sewage apparently have a very high potential to become the winner. So that's changed my perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, because there's another thing that poop is gold, because there's so many valuable materials in soup jam.
We have a lot of nutrients. For example, from the urine, we can extract natrium and potassium, which are 2 of the most valuable minerals from plants. So that's why we decided to work with
grow,
plants.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And we use plants that requires a high amount of natrium and potassium. And what we tried to do was to actually let the plants catch these minerals from the black water or gray water, and to let them grow and to create exactly this value, this aesthetic value on the high-rise building itself.
Yeah, so closing the loop, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because the halophyte plant is a salt-tolerant plant, right? So it's mostly found near the beaches.
Yeah, exactly. So it's also an endemic plant from the Netherlands, which is also another aspect that we consider to reintroduce the local fauna inside the cities. So we try to combine different aspects that we thought were interesting, and to create this new value out of a waste product.
And even, I'm just quickly looking up the Sacral, which is an edible plant living near the sea, is growing. So basically we can say that we can grow food on poo and shampoo, right?
Yeah.
So you can make like a self-sufficient house.
Yeah, basically. That should be the goal.
So, and just to explain a little bit more, so it was the wall
Yeah.
The outside wall you're working on. So
Yeah.
that was the
And
focus
the
point.
facade. Yeah.
The facade, yeah.
Yeah, and this also will allow us to introduce green species inside the cities. So this will give us also a series of other benefits related to the control of the temperature inside the building. So reduce the thermal excursion between the inside and the outside. Which has benefits both during the winter and during the summer. It also catch the CO2, it produce oxygen, and...
So green buildings are good for your health and the environment.
Yeah, exactly. It also allows us to introduce new species, reintroduce species inside the city, which has been basically kicked off.
Yeah,
So
you have to be careful with the invasive exote.
Yeah.
So, sorry, we can skip this one.
And also in the challenge, of course, you're a chemist, so you know a lot about the topic and also probably about the role of the plant, how it works on a, let's say, a molecular level. But you're also collaborating with a lot of different disciplines in your group and also entrepreneurs who are coaching your team to get to the end products, right? What kind of opportunities arose during and after the challenge for you?
So you did this challenge with your background as a chemist and also as a designer. But what did it bring you as a person and in your line of work? Because we can get back to the solar cells.
Okay.
And your focus point on your masters. So let's bring it back to this Corona 2 months of solitude, reading and looking forward, and with this knowledge and this practice experience you had. So what did it bring you?
It was super interesting for me to work in a team that has people with completely different background, because this allows us to exchange points of view and perspective. And it was super interesting for me to understand how people with a different background and a different mindset face the same problem. So it also helps you to grow and to acquire different points of view. Maybe also think about aspects that you never considered before, because it's not proper of your mindset and your background.
And so you're a chemist and you're a researcher and a designer. And what brought you to BlueCity Lab?
I approached BlueCity Lab basically for my interest in design, and also because I was intrigued by what it's going on in BlueCity Lab. It's basically a place where people with different interests, like almost, let's say, interests that are like transversal interest, are based. And also because BlueCity Lab gives the opportunity to these people to develop their project through the use of facilities and economic support. And so I was interested by what's going on here.
Did you actually know that Emma is the founder of the lab?
She told me 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, people always ask, I don't see where BlueCity. No, I'm in the cellars, of course, downstairs where nobody...
We need to get out of the cellars.
Yeah.
So that's why we are doing a podcast.
Anna, of course, nature is a big inspiration for you. I think maybe that's also why you started studying chemistry, maybe. Which aspect of nature inspires you the most?
I am really fascinated from the way nature in general it's able to adapt to new circumstances. So this idea of living together with the trouble and to find new ways of facing it and to living in a basically this way of coexisting together with the trouble and with other species and finding new solutions that involves different species. And
So it seems to me you always are searching for friction in your professional life.
yeah, I actually recently realized that I always start every process or project or parts of my life with a question. And this question usually involves this kind of friction. So I'm always looking for gaps, and I always question myself how to fill these gaps.
I think of all the people we interview, you are like the category researcher, and of course you're a chemist, and that's very interesting about all the profiles we have here. So that gives us a very interesting perspective, and also the ecosystem of the lab, and people who are triggered to come here and work together, because everyone is searching for that collaboration, for that friction. And we started with the conversation about the solar cells and your research, and but is it that you are attracted also to the lab, that it can come to life, that you can see what happens, to visualize your research
And make it feasible, for example.
Yeah, so basically, I always start processes or project with a question. And what I do is trying to find these gaps and at the same time finding way of filling the gaps. And I'm really fascinated by the opportunity of gaining knowledge in a constantly evolving process. And for me, in this context, research is very important, and it represents the base of my practice. And the way I use research is a critical way. This idea of using the design as a research tool, as a research method that allows you also to design research methods. And also, I like this idea of designer as a translator figure that basically combine different points of view and has a broad vision of different aspects, and it is able to translate this knowledge in a narrative, in a visual way, and in an embodiment of
I think
research.
this is really beautiful. I'm really glad you are giving us this answer, because that is what we talked about. You know, designers are there and also to visualize scientific ideas, projects, evidence, so to say. And you're the one who was seeing that already and took the step to study also design and evolve design, which makes me really happy.
Emma always says, like, researchers and designers are actually working on the same thing, but use different methods, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Look at her smiling.
Yeah, I'm really, you really addressed it in a good way. What do you think about the role, the role of education could play in this? Because we work in hybrid teams, different disciplines. Everybody's talking about interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. How do you think the role of education, what the role of education is? Because it is super important to educate our future designers, engineers. How do you experience that?
I also have a very critical point of view about this, actually, which is also the reason why I decided to start working with design and not only with chemistry. And it's because there is this idea of hyper-specialization in the academic context and the educational context in general in this moment. But I think that our society, especially in the way, in the endless ways it's interconnected with everything, doesn't require this kind of hyper-specialization. Because for facing problems that are so complex, what we need is to find different approaches that involves different personalities and different professionalities and different backgrounds. And so what I think is that the education and the academic research in general should be more open to this kind of exchange, to this interdisciplinarity, and to face the new challenges in a different way.
Wow. Yeah, an applause.
Yeah, this is beautiful. I'm just
Barbara can finally clap with her hands.
Yes.
She loves to clap.
Spanish, you know. Yeah, there was the first joke. I think it's okay, normally we finish off with 2 questions, but I'm actually more interested in how you foresee the future instead of these questions.
At the moment, I'm really digging into design. I think that for grow and for develop yourself, you should pass through a deconstruction process. So now I'm really digging into design, and I hope to combine this with my scientific background in the future in a more complete way, let's say. At the moment, I'm of course using my mindset and my skills because they shaped my brain basically. And I hope to combine this with my skills and my knowledge in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm also really curious if you have a favorite project or a designer that really is a really an example for you.
Okay,
That's what, yeah. But also a favorite by designer, architect, chemist, maybe you can name it, to collaborate with, and who would that be?
That's a good question. I never thought about this.
Can I give you one? Because I think you haven't thought of it, but I would look into psychology if I were you. Yeah, that's a strange one, but the deconstructing.
Yeah.
That's like really like how you work with psychology, and I think if you can see some therapies and how they work, there will be some interesting revelations.
Interesting. Maybe I will catch it.
But do you have an example or a person that really inspires you, that you look up to? And
I really like Sissel Tolas.
Yeah.
Who said?
She's also a chemist and a designer,
Yeah?
and she works with Aromas. So I
So
really
smell.
smell. So I really like this idea of working with different senses that are not only the sight, basically, which is like the first approach we all have, but this idea of tackling somehow our inner self through the combination of design and chemistry.
Yeah.
It's something that really inspires me.
Well, haven't you just did something with Aromas, Emma?
Yes, well, yeah, last week we had a workshop. Actually, my colleague Ivan Henriquez from the Willem de Kooning gave this workshop for students. And we were making scents or smells from anything you can think of. Let's say urban smells. And there was a workshop together with Maki Ueda, who is a Japanese smell artist, really fantastic work. But one of the things that really struck my mind, so to say, was the baklava perfume. So there was a student who actually made from a piece of baklava, the delicacy.
Yeah, it's a Turkish.
It's a Turkish
delicacy made out of the pastiche.
Yeah. So that's smell is it's really I can talk a lot about it. But talking about Sissel Telaas, I really love her the Human Cheese Project. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
Together with Christina
What is
Akapakis.
the cheese project?
Well, actually, you can make cheese from human matter. Well, then, for example, we have certain yeast living on our body.
Yeah, so we're not talking about the breastfeeding milk, right? You're talking
No,
about
this is
yeah.
basically an older project, but still very relevant. So we have a saying, the toe cheese, things that are living between your feet.
Yes.
But actually, you can make a delicious cheese out of that.
Out of the things between your toes.
So if you cultivate that and
So for the people at home, I'm turning a bit green. Yeah.
No, but it's a really interesting project. So we're now making a bit fun of it, but it's a really interesting conversation actually.
Yeah, it's also you're prickling the mind. So everything that you know, it can be deconstructed and you rethink again. So it's almost the classified nature-nurture discussion as well, in a different sense. Sorry, psychology. Yeah.
Are you a psychologist?
Skip this one. No. Well, almost, no. Thank you so much. Do you want to say anything? Is there something maybe on the tip of your tongue that you want to address? Or maybe if you are really looking for someone to work or collaborate with, you can also use this moment for a short pitch.
No, I don't think so.
People can find me.
Yeah.
No, so thank you so much. And thank you for this very interesting story and making Emma so happy.
Yeah, I'm really floating on my chair. No, I think Anna is really could be an inspiration for a lot of students. I think we and also especially chemistry and biology students, because most of the time you see the other way around. So designers start to study biology. Well, the people I know, but for you it's the other way around. And yeah, I think you really showed people the potential of a chemist starting to study at the design academy and used design as a power to bring chemistry to the market, but then in a different way. It's much more poetic, much more tangible, and I think that's really necessary to tell tell people about new technologies or chemistry, because it's something we don't know really what it is. A lot of people don't know. Yeah, they have a sense of what chemistry is, but how would it look like in our daily lives? And I think that's a really nice metaphor to use design for that. So thank you for telling that story. Yeah.
Thank you.
This Growcast was hosted by Barbara Vos and Emma van der Leest and produced by BlueCity Lab. This podcast was realized with funding from the municipality of Rotterdam and Creative Industries Fund NL and was edited by Puree Productions. We also want to give a shout out to Nienke Binnendijk, director of BlueCity Lab, and Sabine Biesheuvel, director of BlueCity, and actually everyone else from the BlueCity team for their trust and never-ending support. Until next time, thank you for listening.